What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we're going to be comparing two very different phones. The new 2020 iPhone SE and the Samsung Galaxy A71. Now, you're probably wondering why I'd even make this comparison. And there's really one reason in particular. Both of these phones retail for $399, and that price point alone gives us a solid foundation to do this comparison. Also, phones from the A series lineup, like the A71, they are technically Samsung's budget options right now. They're significantly cheaper than the S20 line, while the iPhone SE is Apple's own budget option. So if you're looking to save some money and want to do an Apple to Samsung budget phone comparison, this is likely what you'll be looking at. So in this video, I'm going to go over everything you need to know about these two phones. I'll talk about the differences and the few similarities as well. And hopefully, by the end of this video, it'll help you to decide which device might be the better option if you're in the market for a new phone. First off, let's actually touch on the price for just a second, because I want to make sure I give you the full story. With Apple's iPhone SE, this phone starts at $399 for the 64GB model, and if you want more storage, you'll have to pay more. But no matter where you get this phone from, whether it be Apple or Amazon or anywhere else, if it's an unlocked device and not through some carrier deal, you'll be paying the same price, $399. With the A71, this phone sort of fluctuates in price a little bit, depending on where you're located and where you buy it from. B&H Photo has this device for exactly $399, and I believe that's the true retail price, at least here in the States. But some Amazon listings, for example, have this phone for as low as $359. So you could potentially find the A71 for a little cheaper if you stumble upon the right listing. But for the most part, these phones are basically going to be the same price. And just as a side note, if you're interested in doing some comparison shopping of your own, or maybe want to pick up one of these phones for yourself, I will have links to where you can find them at their cheapest prices with the best deals down below in the video description. So check down there so you don't miss out. Physically, these two phones obviously couldn't be more different. Just at first glance, we can see that the iPhone SE has Apple's design from years and years ago now, while the A71 is a modern bezel-less smartphone. The iPhone SE is dwarfed by the A71 when you stack these two phones up side by side, and the 4.7-inch display bordered by those large top and bottom bezels on the iPhone looks incredibly small compared to the 6.7-inch screen on the A71. Size-wise, the difference is night and day, and I think each of these phones will appeal to two different people. The A71 is a big phone, but still usable and relatively comfortable, all things considered. And if you like big screens, this is as large of a device as you can go with for the price. On the other hand, the iPhone SE is about as small of a phone as you can find right now from any company. It's super comfortable with one-handed use and relatively nice in a pocket too. But obviously, you have a lot of wasted space here. The top and bottom bezels mean you don't get the maximum screen-to-body ratio you could be getting, while the A71's display stretches from corner to corner. And the screen size isn't the only factor to consider. The screen technology on each phone is vastly different, and it's important to understand the viewing experience you'll be getting with each device. The 4.7-inch display on the iPhone SE comes in at a resolution of 1334 by 750. It packs about 326 pixels per inch, but the display itself is an IPS LCD panel. By comparison, the A71 offers a higher resolution, 2400 by 1080, a higher pixel density, 393 pixels per inch, and a better panel, a Super AMOLED Plus screen. Now, here's the bottom line. I'm not going to sit here and try and prop up the iPhone's display by saying nice things or criticize the A71's to bring them closer together. The A71 simply has a vastly superior screen than the iPhone in every way. It's a better panel, it's a higher resolution, and even if you didn't pay any attention to the specs, I think visually you can tell pretty easily that the A71 has the advantage. Altogether, I find the viewing experience on the A71 to be miles ahead of the iPhone SE. I like the bigger display, the specs are all there, and everything looks sharper with brighter colors and more contrast. When it comes to the display, the choice is clear for me. The A71 is miles ahead of the iPhone SE. Taking a look around at the rest of the physical traits, we have some more important differences. When it comes to the materials and build, this time, the advantage falls in favor of the iPhone. While this device is Apple's budget offering, there isn't really anything cheap here. This phone has an all-glass and aluminum construction that feels premium in the hand. This was Apple's flagship design just a couple of years ago, and it feels and looks like a flagship phone even today, at least from the back. While the A71 looks like it might be made of premium materials, it's an all-plastic construction with plastic chrome accents. Fortunately, it still looks great and feels nice in the hand. There's nothing really that gives it a cheap vibe here either. But objectively, the iPhone SE has the edge when it comes to build quality and materials. And there's also two other points to make here as well. Because the iPhone is using more premium materials, the phone offers a true IP67 water resistance and dust rating. The A71 has no water resistance certification at all. And the iPhone SE packs wireless Qi charging in there as well, while the A71 has no wireless charging option. I think overall, the iPhone SE not only has the better build, but fewer compromises when compared to the A71. On the bottom of the phones, we see even more differences. The iPhone SE charges via Lightning, of course, while the A71 has a USB-C port. And the iPhone SE lacks the headphone jack, while the A71 still has it. That's certainly something to consider, but the iPhone SE catches back up when it comes to the external speaker. This phone has a dual stereo speaker setup with one down below, an additional speaker in the earpiece, while the A71 has just the one single downward firing speaker. This, in turn, allows the iPhone SE to offer the significantly better out loud listening experience. The A71 still sounds fine, but it can't compete. So with this, you sort of have to decide if you prefer the old school headphone jack of the A71 or the significantly better stereo speakers on the iPhone SE when it comes to your listening experience. Another thing to consider with these phones is the fingerprint sensor. The iPhone SE, of course, has Apple's Touch ID setup on the home button, while the A71 packs a hidden fingerprint sensor underneath the display. Now, we already sort of talked about the design and the bezels, so looking past that and considering just the functionality, I do think the iPhone SE has the faster, more accurate, and easier to use fingerprint sensor. The A71 tends to give me trouble from time to time, and it takes a bit to get used to the placements, while the iPhone's is obviously a physical spot that you can see and feel. But there's one other thing to think about too. The A71 offers face unlock, as well as the fingerprint sensor, while the iPhone has no other unlocking features. So you can pair the A71's fingerprint sensor with facial recognition, and that potentially might be a more compelling option for you. Facial recognition, I think, is pretty quick on the A71 too, and you can set it up to automatically unlock to the home screen, which is great. But again, this is sort of going to come down to what you use and prefer. When it comes to the internal specs of these phones, this is where things get a little tough to compare. First off, with the internal storage options, like I mentioned earlier, the iPhone SE has a 64GB option for $399, but to get more storage, you'll have to pay $449 for 128GB or $549 for 256. With the A71, this phone starts at 128GB of storage, twice as much as the iPhone, and you can simply just pop in an SD card for significantly more storage for cheaper. In this case, the A71 is easily the better choice. But when it comes to the processor and performance, there are a lot of other things to consider. Spec-wise, the iPhone SE has Apple's newest and most powerful flagship processor, the A13 Bionic chip. This is the same processor from the iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max, and it is the best Apple offers right now. The phone also has 3 gigs of RAM as well, which is one less than the flagship iPhones. Inside the A71, this phone has Qualcomm's Snapdragon 730 series processor, which is not technically a flagship chipset. It's more of an upper mid-range product, but it also has either 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, depending on the version you buy. The iPhone has the far better processor, there's no doubt about that, but the A71 has significantly more RAM. The deciding factor really is going to come down to the software experience, and here's where things get tricky. On the iPhone, you get Apple's latest software with iOS 13. It's well optimized, and Apple has control over it all, which is why this phone only has 3 gigs of RAM. Apple basically decided that adding more RAM wasn't necessary, since they can optimize the OS, they have complete control over the App Store and all the third-party apps, and they can ensure that everything runs smoothly, given the specs of the phone. The A71, on the other hand, runs Android 10 and Samsung's One UI 2. Once again, we do have a great software experience. Everything feels fast and smooth, but because the OS and the apps and everything come from sort of all over the place, this phone sort of has to have the capabilities to handle a whole bunch of potential stuff that Samsung doesn't have control over. It is true that Android isn't also as well optimized for every single device. In this case, the experience on the A71 is great, but as time goes on, things tend to fall off more quickly on an Android device. One huge advantage the iPhone has is longevity. The iPhone SE will likely be supported for the next 4, 5, or even 6 years, while the A71 has perhaps a 2 or 3 year software support lifespan. And obviously, the entire experience of iOS versus Android is going to differ too. It's tough to do a direct speed test since apps load differently, animations behave differently, and you just have a different experience altogether. You really have to decide whether you want to be in Apple's ecosystem or simply use an Android device. I don't think power or performance are necessarily a direct comparison, but I will say that I personally believe iOS has certain advantages like optimization and longevity over Android as a whole. When it comes to battery life, this is another huge difference between these phones. The iPhone SE has a small 1821 capacity battery in comparison to the A71's fairly large 4500 milliamp capacity. Overall, the A71 is going to last longer, even if it does have a larger, higher resolution display that takes up some of the battery power. But it goes beyond even that. The iPhone SE's battery drains noticeably faster when gaming, while the A71 can hold up quite a bit. And when it comes to charging speeds, in the box, the iPhone ships with a small 5-watt charging brick, but you can go out and buy an 18-watt USB-C brick if you want to charge quicker. The A71, on the other hand, ships with the super fast 25-watt charger. Overall, when it comes to size, longevity, and charging speeds, the A71 has the advantage in every single category. Finally, let's talk cameras. And honestly, there's a lot to consider here. I'll start with the easy stuff first. The front-facing camera on the iPhone SE is a 7-megapixel f2.2 lens, while the A71 packs a 32-megapixel f2.2 lens. On paper, the advantage seems to be for the A71, but in practice, I think the iPhone still takes much better selfies. With the rear camera, things are a bit more complicated. The iPhone SE has just one lens. It's a 12-megapixel f1.8 aperture shooter, but it does just about everything you'd expect. You've got portrait mode, HDR, optical image stabilization, 4K video, slow-mo, plenty of options. But the A71 simply just has more. It has 4 lenses around back to utilize: a 64-megapixel f1.8 aperture main lens, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 5-megapixel macro camera, and a 5-megapixel depth sensor. The A71 has the wide-angle feature. It can shoot super up-close pictures, and it can potentially offer a higher resolution image utilizing the full 64-megapixel lens. It also has additional shooting modes like night mode, which is incredibly important and surprisingly something this iPhone SE does not offer. The A71 just has more camera capabilities in every capacity, and if all those extra shooting modes and features are important to you, then the choice is clear. But you should also decide subjectively which pictures and videos you personally prefer. I think the iPhone does a significantly better job shooting video, so that's what I choose there. And I do think that more often than not when shooting pictures, the iPhone does produce a better image. But in the end, it is going to be up to you to decide which phone you'd rather have for taking pictures and videos. So here are my final thoughts. Obviously, we are dealing with 2 very different phones. And honestly, these phones are just going to appeal to very different groups of people. I don't necessarily think the same person will be deciding specifically between these 2 phones in particular, but if you are, I think the big things to consider are screen size and design, battery life, camera setup, and software experience. Out of all those, what do you see yourself valuing most and wanting to get more of? I think the A71 is the better value overall for the price. You simply just get more, but I can see some advantages the iPhone has that may make it worth it to you. But let me know what you guys think. Which phone would you prefer? I'd love to know your thoughts, of course, in the comments down below. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video though. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.